I want to welcome Shawna Clingerman here. She is such an inspiration to me. I'm going to give a little bit of an intro about who she is to me, and then I will let her talk about herself a little bit more. But Shawna is an artist and an illustrator, and she is someone who has just been such an inspiration to me. We met through, first through my mood board class that she took, and I just fell in love with her spirit and her authenticity, and everything that she did in that class was amazing. And so I was like, I have to get to know this girl. And it's been such a pleasure to get to know you. And I wanted to invite her on today to talk about her journey becoming a successful illustrator, because I know that that's something that a lot of people have these amazing aspirations, because it's illustrating and creating artwork is just this like passion that so many people have inside of them. But it's kind of, I don't know if daunting is the right word, but it's sort of this world that you don't really know what that looks like or how to get into it or how do you actually make money doing that. And so I wanted to have you on today to talk about all of those things in your journey and offer some nuggets and pieces of wisdom for people. So why don't you give a little intro about yourself?
Okay, well, yes, I am an artist and an illustrator. I actually got started it's like 15 years ago now that I got started just doing digital scrapbooking supplies for people that scrapbook in Photoshop on their computer. And I was a digital scrapbooker because I had all these little kids, and I decided that I wanted to start drawing things myself. And so I was like drawing with a Sharpie, like just little swirlies and swoopies. And then my husband bought me a Wacom tablet, like because I was scanning stuff in.
Yeah.
And once he bought me that, then it was kind of like that was the beginning of the end of just doing it for fun, because I loved it and I gave them away for free on my blog. And then somebody offered me a spot at a little shop, and slowly I just kind of built up as a digital scrapbook designer for like about 10 years. And yeah, I loved it. It was a great it was a great part-time thing I could do while my kids were home. I could work through the night. I could, and I didn't have a lot of expectations at that time because I was just doing it kind of for fun, plus like the bonus of making a little money.
Yeah.
And it kind of has just evolved to a point where now I work full-time. All my kids are in school, and it is my job, and I do make money doing it. And yeah, today I don't design digital scrapbooking supplies anymore. I've transitioned into designing for the paper industry. So I do work for some of the bigger scrapbooking companies like Becky Higgins Project Life, and American Crafts, Photoplay, and some stamp companies, and Illustrated Faith. I have a regular recurring printable set that comes out every month on their site.
Oh, so I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So I'm totally curious, were you like crafty and artsy as a kid, or did this emerge just when you had kids and you started doing scrapbooking?
I was like weirdly crazy crafty and artsy as a kid, but I did like kind of odd things. Like we didn't have a lot of money, and so it wasn't like I had like lots of supplies to work with. It was like whatever I could find, I would cut it out, I would paste it together. Even as old as like 12, I would get circulars from the grocery store and cut out like the pieces of fruit and veggies in the circulars and paste them down in books, like try to make little arrangements.
Okay, the age 12 is not like an old age for doing that kind of stuff, because I recall probably older than that, I would like make these journals I would like the catalogs that would come to my parents' house. I would like seek out the pages that just had like patterns, or like that was like something I could turn something into, and I would make journals, and then I would like cut out and keep like hairstyles I loved, or like yeah, so yeah, that's not weird.
I feel like all my friends were like new kids on the block and like being super too cool for school.
Right?
And I was
like 90210, and I was like, that is not in my world. Like, but I am cutting out these silhouettes from like fashion designers and redrawing my own outfits. I don't know.
Yeah.
I love that. Love that. Okay. So back on track. So,
But yeah, I didn't know that I was going to be an artist. I like did those things for fun, and I drew things for my friends, and I like took a like sign making class in high school for leadership. But the idea of being an artist, it didn't seem like something I could do because I wasn't like I didn't sit and draw mountainsides or like, you know, I couldn't like put together the perfect apple dimensions or whatever. And so I just thought like, oh no, I just do it for fun. So when I went to college, I went for communication for Spanish because I thought I had to be like serious. To be an artist, you had to be serious, but also like you had to pick a serious job. So I didn't know that like this would be today.
That actually is such a good point, because I think that there's this thing in society. It's like it's kind of unspoken, but in a lot of times it actually is spoken, that that you can have fun as a kid and you can explore that kind of stuff as a kid, but when you go to college and when you pick a career to succeed in life, because up until that point apparently you're not succeeding in life, then then it's about getting serious, and then it's about like, what can you do to make money? And then there's this idea that being an artist and being a creative person does not equal that. Like you cannot be an artist and be a serious career person that's going to have success at the same time.
And if you are going to be an artist, you're like one of the select few who is the artist. You know, you will be the artist and you take all of it on, and you have to be real intense about it, and you have to like, you know, wear a beret or something. I don't know, like it's
totally. Well, and it's basically like your chances of success and actually making money are like, you might as well go to Hollywood and try to become an actor. Like that's kind of the like, it's like good luck sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually as a kid too, I wasn't really exposed, even though like my mom is super artistic, my brother is super artistic. I wasn't exposed to a lot of like what that could look like as a job. Like, I guess I thought like, then you have to have
you're going
to be in a gallery or something.
Right. Exactly. It's like, you're going to put work in galleries, or you just can't be an artist. Cause like, that's what they do.
Yeah.
So this idea that there's like such a range, like it kind of blew my mind that you could make money, like just doodling things out. Like that was like, wait a minute, I've been doing this my whole life. What are you talking about?
Hold up. I can get paid for this? Okay.
Yes.
So let's chat then about, so you were doing this as, you were making money, but it sounds like, and this isn't your words, but it sounds like it was kind of one of those like hobbies that was like the money that came in was like a bonus, right? You weren't like, I'm going to focus on this as a career.
It was like, I think I did it a lot for my own sanity more than any other need, just because I had four kids. Like at one point I had 3 kids under 5, and then I had 4 kids under 8. Like it was just madness. And I'm not a homemaker. It's no secret. I'm just real bad at it. Really bad at it. And so when you're a stay-at-home mom of 4 kids, basically like that's your job is homemaking.
Oh yeah.
And I just was not good at it.
Distract myself from the fact that I don't want to do those dishes and I suck at it.
Yes. Like I super suck. Like I was like, I have to have something I can do that I feel like I'm okay at. And so I did that kind of for fun. And then, it made some money. So then there was like some validation in that, like I actually didn't have to feel guilty that I wasn't scrubbing the shower, you know.
Oh, amen.
Or you know, stuff that like you just feel guilty about. That's dumb. But I thought like, if I'm not doing that, what am I doing? And so even if it was $50 or $200 a month, it was just something that made me feel like, okay, this is my job. And so I can say no to the crap I don't want to do because I'm doing this thing. Yeah.
And 2, I mean, speaking from somebody that has little kids, it is, you need like that mental, I don't know, mental, but not even mental, like you need that outlet that isn't just them all the time. Like it's a very demanding job being a mother of small children, and it requires a lot of patience, and there's a lot of things that can be super frustrating. There's a lot of things that can be fun, but it requires like almost this practice of patience and like, I don't know. So I totally hear you. Like,
Yes.
people
Yeah.
that don't have that outlet, it's, yeah.
And it's like draining. I can't imagine. I wouldn't have survived like those years without it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then talk to me
Yes.
about, at what point were you like, was it a conscious decision to shift from, I'm doing this as sort of a hobby, to I'm going to focus on this?
Yeah, I think it sort of evolved. At first, it evolved slowly because my kids started going to school. Before I knew it, I had like 3 kids in school and just one at home. And I started to feel like, okay, if this is what I'm doing, like I want to be successful at it. And so I would put more time in because of that. And then when my youngest started school, then it was like, that was kind of a like line in the sand, because it was like, okay, what am I doing with my life? Well, I lied, because I did take 1 year of kind of doing pretty much nothing, because I told myself I'd had kids at home for 13 years. So I like took a bath every day. I like napped on the regular. I was like, this is
Oh
the
shit,
year of
you deserve 5 years of that, honestly. But I mean, yeah.
But then after that year, I started to feel like a little unsettled about, that I was doing this thing. I was selling work, and I wasn't making even as much as I could make, like if I worked at Starbucks or if I worked at the gas station. Like I started to feel like, what am I doing? Where's my life going? And so that was kind of when there was like a bit of a shift for me mentally, because I realized that I just wanted to feel some real purpose, and I didn't want that purpose to be homemaking. And when the kids get older, it's almost even worse, because then what are you doing? Like you're driving them around and you're cleaning up. Like there's no more like, pancake parties and like all that stuff that you do when they're toddlers. It's like, well, what am I doing? And so that's when I knew that like I had to get really serious. And that was actually kind of a hard time that year, of like realizing that I wasn't happy with how much money I was making with my hobby mentality, and that I was working really hard with these expectations that were kind of like super low. Like I would work all week super duper hard on something and get to the end of the week and be like, my bare minimum is that I make $100 on this product that I worked like the entire week on. And that was kind of depressing, and I wouldn't always hit it because sales are hard. And also I just didn't understand, like I didn't have a good sense of confidence. Like back then I told myself, oh, it's a competitive field, because it was a very oversaturated market at the time. Or, oh, I'm just not, everybody doesn't really like me. Or like I had these internal voices that kind of kept me right there, where I was just like barely getting by, feeling crappy about it, but like trying to push through. And so that was kind of the transition point for me. And that was about 5 years ago, I guess. Yeah. And so
a lot of this was like, you said hobby mentality, which I love that you use that term, because that's true. And that goes along with like just kind of accepting what you get, like not really like rising to the occasion of where you want to be. Right. So for you, was it about shifting a lot of these internal beliefs and like recognizing that you needed to shift those? Or was it about being like, okay, I'm going to try it. I'm going to put myself out there and see what happens, but I still don't believe it's possible. Like, how did that all play out for you?
I think the way that, like, first I thought it was going to be a matter of like, if I put my pedal to the metal and just do the things, like if I work harder and I release something every single week and I send out a newsletter and I thought if I do all the right things, that would be all that I needed, was just like the shift in how hard I was working. But I think what happened is that I worked harder and harder and harder, and I still stayed at that like really plateau level, because there was like some serious internal things that I was telling myself that would have held me back until the end of time, because it wasn't really about my talent or how much people liked me or wanted my stuff. It was like about how much I believed in my stuff and how much what I like put out there into the universe with the kind of language I used and the kind of attitude I had. And so,
like,
yeah,
that's so big. So big.
it was like, and it took me, I mean, it took a long time to work through all of what it took to kind of get to a place where today, like, I'm not thinking, oh, I need to, if only I can make this much on this one thing. I'm thinking like, I hope this thing can make me money for a really long time. Or like, I'm just like, my attitude has shifted so much. Like, you know, how can I bring my husband home so that he can start his own company because I'm making enough money? That never would have been something that I had like the balls to think back then, because I was like, no, I just didn't think it. I thought I was not the person for that, and that was the thing, is that I thought I was not the person for success, and so success was like, okay, I hear ya.
Yeah.
And so I actually, for me, one of the big shifts that happened is that I started doing that word of the year thing. It's called, I started one little word, because that's in the scrapbooking community, what a lot of people do.
Yeah, you got to tell me about this. You have to
tell
everyone about this. So that was like a huge turning point for you, right? When you made that decision to focus on these word of the year. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, because I was just like, I kept telling myself all the things I couldn't have and all the things that weren't for me right now. And like, I had this mindset of like, oh, I'm going to earn it and then I'll get it kind of attitude, or I'm going to earn it and then I'll own it. And so I hit, I think it was 2016, 2015, one of those. I hit it and I was just like, I can't keep waiting for the time to be right to have the life that I really want. And I can't keep like pouring myself into this business that I don't even believe in. I can't keep pouring my time into something that I don't actually think is going to be enough to sustain me. And so I picked the word begin, and I just decided that that was the year that everything I've been telling myself that I would start when I was skinnier, when I was more talented, when I had more time, you know, all the things. And of course it starts when I was skinnier, because like, I swear, like, that's the first one on everybody's list. Like, when I'm thinner, I'm going to get this haircut. I'm going to go on a vacation.
Mine is when I get a new haircut. Like, when I get a new haircut, then I'll take those photos.
Right.
Really?
It's so funny how we do that. And then it's like, I mean, there's that really, it's not cheesy, but that really overused like quote that like, a year from now, you'll wish you started today. And people use that when it comes to fitness. But like, it wasn't just, I mean, I did like do some fitness that year, but it wasn't really about fitness for me. It was more about like, what life do I want? And what am I saying no to over and over and over again? Or like pushing out of my brain when it pops in, like those curiosities, those excitements that you kind of like nudge back. And so that year, like I started a bunch of things. I went back to school just because I wanted to like have some like paperwork behind all of my skills as an artist. And I actually got a part-time job because I was tired of feeling bad about like the sales hustle that wasn't working for me. And I started watercolor and art journaling. Like, I took online classes for those things, and I just started doing them and sharing them. Like, I started watercoloring every day and just posting a really random picture. And there was something about that year of like permission to just start things.
Amen. Yeah.
Without any, like, it wasn't even like, where am I going? What's my big goal? Like, it was like, just like get in there and start it and see how it feels. And it felt amazing. It was so empowering. And that year I sent a portfolio to a company, a paper company, to Becky Higgins Project Life, because I was a huge fan, and that was a big dream to be like produced for paper. And it was because I like had decided that I wasn't putting things off anymore that I did that. And that was that was kind of the start of my new career in which I did things that I really felt excited about.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
just have to recap this start. Okay, so
Yes.
the things that I love that you talked about, and then I have a question for you. I love that it wasn't like your start wasn't like, I have this 10-point plan and I'm going to follow it. And if I follow this, I'm going to get where I want to go. It literally was like, you're like, I'm following my heart and I'm going to just do anything that feels good. Right?
Yep. That's totally what I did. And I did I ran 5 miles that year because it felt good and I wanted to try it. And
yes.
Yeah, it was less about like coming up with this extravagant, amazing business plan or amazing plan for my future. And instead about like, what could I do if I tried? And then it was more of a question than like a
what am I
destination.
inspired to do?
Yes.
So I'm curious, with the sending the portfolio to Becky Higgins, is that a dream you had, but you had been suppressing, or had you been suppressing things so long that you didn't even really know what you wanted to do?
That was a dream I had that I'd been suppressing, because when I was designing for digital, I mean, I'm making all those things. I'm making journal cards and papers and patterns.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, every time I designed one of those, the dream is like, oh, if a company would produce this and it would be in a craft store, like that was the big dream. And so, but it always felt like a dream too big for me, because I thought these things. I thought, oh, there's a lot of people more talented than me that don't have paper lines. So why would I ever try? Or, oh, if they wanted me, they would just have already found me, because apparently they have all the time in the world to just browse the internet for.
I actually hear that a lot. Like people thinking that they're going to get discovered. Like they share work and they think they're going to get discovered.
Yeah.
May happen sometimes. It has to happen sometimes. But the majority of times, that's not how it works.
You have to put yourself out there. And even like when you do get discovered, you're discovered because you're like putting yourself out there in one way or another. Like, and nobody's going to find you hiding.
If that's what you wanted. Like, you set that intention and it just happened. But 99.99999% of the time, that's not how it works.
Yeah. No.
So you had start, and there are all these beautiful things that happen. So what happened next? Because so this is like,
I got to the end of start
3-4 years ago, right?
Yeah, I think it was 4, maybe 5, because I'm trying to math it backwards, because I'm on my 5th word. So it was 4 full years ago, because it's the beginning of the year. So then the next year I was like, okay, I've started all this great stuff and I'm having so much fun. And so I picked the word bloom because I wanted to just like keep pouring it into those things that I discovered, because I had tried them and I realized like watercolor was something I had no idea I loved. And hand lettering, like both of those things were things I thought were for like real artists, not like graphic designer, digital artists. And so when I tried them and I loved them, Bloom was like, let's just like pour into these things that I've gotten into. And the more time you just like keep pouring into a thing, like the more it gives back to you, especially with art. Like it never fails with that. Like if you keep putting yourself into something, you always reap rewards of like growing and getting stronger and getting more proficient. And so then by the end of that year, the things that I was sharing, because I was sharing all of this on social media, because that's how I roll. But by the end of that year, the things that I was sharing were so, they'd come so far. And I got my job at Illustrated Faith because I was Bible journaling. That's one of the things I'd started. And I was painting and putting things in my Bible. And so they approached me to come start selling in their shop because of the things that I was doing over and over and over again and sharing. And so Bloom was just a great year of like building that muscle, the muscle of trying things over and over again, but also the muscle of confidence, because the more that you repeat something, like the better you start to feel about it, the different you start talking about it different. And like I started to learn, like I stopped saying like, oh, this isn't that good, but ... Like I started to like evolve out of that place where when I shared something, I didn't apologize for it. I was like, hey, I painted the woods.
Yeah.
Rather
Or
than
you weren't calling out like the things that you would do differently or the things that you see.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
that was like that shift started to happen with that year of like bloom and feeling like I am blooming and blossoming at this, like starting to really be able to own it. So, which
Oh, I
was
love it.
really
Okay.
awesome.
So
Yeah.
first year was like, give yourself permission to do anything that feels inspiring. Second year, you really, and then in the second year, were you also kind of like cutting out the things that didn't work for you, or were there things that didn't work for you and you were focusing?
Yeah, I still stuck with college, but only through that year because I started to get more busy with other things. So that was one thing that started to go by the wayside. And there were certainly things that I tried, like pastels and gelatos and art supplies that just weren't really calling to me. Like I kept like building on the ones that I knew were speaking my language. So hand lettering, watercolor, and just illustration. Like I think I got my iPad Pro either during that year or at the very beginning of the next year. And so it was just like building that like hand skill. Yeah.
Yeah.
And all the while, like my heart was just getting stronger because I felt good about what I was doing. And I was, showing, it was just showing in my work. I could see the improvement.
So would you say, I oftentimes hear people talk about how like their skills need to be better before they can start putting themselves out there. And like, I personally believe that that's just a lack of confidence. Like there's, like, I don't think that there's people that shouldn't be sharing their work because it's always inspiring to somebody. But I guess that my question for you is, how important in your journey, how important was building that confidence versus improving your skill set? Or are those the same to you?
I mean, they work together so much. But the confidence, I think the skill set just follows right along with the confidence, because I think that if you're not building the confidence, the skill set like flounders because you bring your insecurity into the work and you don't share it when you do it. And so then it's like, a tree falling in the forest or whatever. Like,
yeah.
And so I think the confidence is so key and more key because you can't progress forward if you don't like start developing that belief inside of your core that, hey, I could do this. Hey, I can try this new thing. Hey, I could paint a person. Hey, like things that, you're like, oh, no.
Yeah.
You had like that level of confidence is what gets
paint a person.
There.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's freaking hard.
I did try that.
Okay. So at what point, and this may be after Bloom, but at what point did you like claim who you were, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Claim, like you claimed it instead of letting other people put that label on you.
Right. It kind of was right there in the transition of Bloom to my next word, which was embrace. And embrace like was about a lot of things for me. I mean, one thing was definitely body image because I was just super tired of like that rat race of always feeling the physical struggles. And then it was also about that, like I needed to embrace like the things that I knew that I was because I'd been proving it to myself over and over and over again. And so that year was definitely the year of like, no more did I like say, oh, when people said, what do you do? I wouldn't say like, oh, sometimes I do blank for blank. I like started saying like, I'm an artist, like just saying I'm an artist, like, which was so huge. Like seems so small, but it was so huge. And I used my status on Instagram and Facebook to say like illustrator, artist. And the way I started talking about my work was different because that was at that point was the time also that I was like, you know what, this is what I do. Like that's when during that year I left my job at the church, which I super loved, but I was just like, I'm now an artist. Like that's what I'm doing. And so I would just talk about it that way. And I stopped And it's funny when I say this because it almost sounds like putting on a show, but it's not, because I think sometimes we put on a show in the other direction. So like we get in front of people and we talk about ourselves in such a downplaying way that they think that we do nothing all day.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah. Yeah. And, but where do you believe that that comes from? Where do you, like, do you think that that comes from like underlying insecurities or our fear of what people are gonna, like, where do you think that comes from?
That is a really good question. I think for me, it came from fearing that if I said what I did and talked about what I did in a serious way, that people would be like, oh, who does she think she is? Like, for me, that was like my biggest thing, is people would be like, oh, who does she think she is? Or that somebody might catch me somehow and realize that it was like absolutely not true. Like that imposter syndrome thing where you think like somebody's going to see me in a weak moment and they're going to say, she's not an artist. She's just drinking a latte at Starbucks, or, you know, like something totally inane that doesn't actually mean you're not an artist. But I think a lot of us live in fear that people are going to find out. Like they might discover something that we don't even know yet that's going to prove that we're just a big fake. You know?
Or I think too, because just because of the nature of creative work, that sometimes I think there's this fear that other people are going to be saying things like, well, but does she really make money doing that? Or, you know, or is she just frivolously at home just painting and, you know, and it's like, not only does that, it matters if you're trying to run a business if you make money, but you can be an artist and not make a penny. You know, like that has, you're not saying to people like, I am like $1 million artist, you know?
Yes.
So, but it is there's that big hurdle of, I think people think that there's a lot of
judgment. Or that they're going to say, they're going to look at what you're doing and how you're talking about yourself, and they're going to say, she's not that good. Like why is she calling herself an artist? Like she's not as good as all the list of names of people that are better than you, because there's always a list of people that are better than you or different. I mean, it's not a contest, like so not a contest, but if you start like subscribing to that question, like, am I as good as, you know, and then insert your art idol here, like probably not, but we assume everybody is holding this bar up and that they're looking at us going, no, that's not.
Yeah. But
and I think that holds us back, and then it changes our language, and then we put on the show of that, oh, we don't take it that seriously, even though like our heart and soul,
you're like, I am so dedicated, I am so in there. I don't want people to think I am, because then I might be judged.
It's like that high school like cool kid thing.
Totally.
We're like, oh, these shoes, just you know, not that like you pined over them and picked them out specifically, but you just threw it on.
Right. You've been coveting them for years and say, yeah. But I think it's also a defense mechanism, right? Like if you don't really claim it to the public and you don't really like, then if it all goes south and everyone thinks that I suck, I didn't try that hard, you know, or like I didn't try out in public that hard, because who wants to fail in public?
It will be like a secret. Nobody will know, which is sad, because I think that it's such a setup, because when we do have a failure, because we all do, if we're like so alone in it that we haven't even admitted to people that we wanted it, then we're sitting there with that feeling all by ourselves. And it's sad. There's such a huge community of people that are all struggling and trying and failing and winning. And when we like pull ourselves, like we say, oh, we're not part of that, it just sets you up to be depressed and isolated.
Yes. Which is a really good segue. So there's one more thing. I'm like totally over time. I told Shawna before I started recording that I'm really bad at time, because I just want to hear what everyone else.
Me too. I'm so chatty too. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so, but really, so I want you to talk about your last like full year word, because you've gone through 3, and then I think that's also a really good segue in talking about like the support that's required and not being alone, for you to talk about kind of like your next phase of what you're doing with regard to illustration. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So my final year after Embrace, which was super powerful year, was fearless. And I picked that word and I was terrified because that word is really intense. And I'm not under the illusion that any of us can like never be afraid, but I was so tired of making all these decisions based on fear. Like choosing my language based on fear, choosing what I'm going to work on based on fear, choosing who I'm going to approach based on fear, like all of that, choosing even the way that we look at other people and make judgments, all of that, like I realized just comes so much back to fear. And so fearless was just a year of like, every time I found myself having a reaction, like, oh, I'm not going to do that, or, oh, what are they thinking? Or like anytime a reaction would come up in me, I would like pin it down and say, okay, what am I afraid of here? Because I felt like anytime there wasn't abundance and love flowing out of me, I must have like fear stopping it up. And so it was a really powerful year for me. I got even stronger in the language I use about my business. I spent money on my business for the first time. I went to this conference with other creatives. I hired my sister to work for me part-time, which talk about like scary to even say out loud. But that year was definitely the year of like, okay, like I am just in this, like, this is what I'm doing. This is my life. And I want it to be like the very, very, very best life. And fear is always working on.
Like, but seriously, I mean,
yeah.
Everyone wants that, but it's hard to say it.
It is. And like, even to discover like to find the language for that and the courage to even say that out loud was really powerful. Because before that I was like, oh, I don't want to claim it. I don't want to, no. Like, I don't want to, all this fear, but fear doesn't want the very best life for us. Fear wants to keep you safe in a very, very, very backwards kind of a way. Like it's like wants to protect you from everything.
Totally.
And so so that was my year last year. And I'm moving into this year of chosen. And that is really about looking at like all of these things that I've learned and how powerful it has all been for me. And like what I know, like I'm kind of chosen to do, like making choices to move toward like what the things that matter most to me. And that's actually part of why I'm starting this really exciting, nerve-wracking program.
Tell us.
Yes. Okay, so really quick, it's an 8-week workshop that I am going to be launching. At the beginning of April is when we start our beta, our very, very first one. And we are going to be working as a group through actually the cycle of those 4 words. We're going to take 2 weeks on each word. And I want to like push people along on this journey of like finding your passion and finding your confidence. And there's such a, I call it leg work and heart work, because I think there is it's a 2-part thing, because you do have to do the practice. But if you don't do the heart work and like look at what's holding you back and look at what's happening inside, the legwork just will always dead end out, because you don't have the confidence that it takes to push into, from one step to the next. And so I am really excited about just being able to take, like, it's just going to be a small group of people, especially this first time. And we are going to walk through each word. We're going to have challenges, both like art challenges that are really tailored to the people that are in there. So if we have all people that are working in Illustrator, then that's going to be our challenges. But if we have people that are doing hand lettering or graphic design, then we will tailor it, because I'm going to be doing it all, like all the lessons will be live, and we'll be meeting every 2 weeks as a group to talk. And everybody in the class is going to have access to me, so I can kind of help, like, just share what I know and how I got from, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make $100 from all this work, to like the confidence that I know that like I deserve to make way more, that like, the confidence that I'm going to get to a point where I can bring my husband home, like that gap doesn't have to take, you know, all of the years that it took me. And so I'm kind of excited. And I really believe that we just,
it's so
it's
awesome.
going to be so cool. And I believe that like this industry, there's so much holding in and holding back and keeping for yourself. And it doesn't serve anybody. And so I kind of want to be the open book to everybody in my program, just about anything and everything, because I don't think that holding it in ever served me. And as soon as I started to feel that idea of abundance and connection and kind of letting the universe and God kind of take care of me through it all, it shifted so much. So that's kind of my
you're like speaking my whole language. I love all of this. I love all of this so, so much. So for anybody that's interested in joining Shawna in her first beta round of this, or maybe beyond, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you, connect with you, find out if it's a good fit for them? I feel like I want to do it just because it sounds super fun. I really love just like personal growth. Like no matter where you are in your journey, there's always the next step. There's always more evolution to happen. And there's always more skills that you can gain. So anyway, I absolutely love all of this. So like, it sounds like something that is like just for beginner people too, but I think we all still have those things we're dealing with.
You know, I think it's for anybody that's at a place and wants to move to the next place and is running into roadblocks and is holding themselves back for whatever reason. And I was actually just talking to a business coach the other day about something like kind of unrelated, but totally related, in that like I am finding myself, like there's this one area that I just like keep not being able to get into, to get through. And so I think that's what this is about more than anything. It's about like, if you want to feel confident and ready and certain, and you want like some one-on-one feedback and support and like more encouragement than you'll probably be able to handle, because I'm super peppy. That's what it's for. It's for like anybody that's there and wants like their hand held a little bit, because that's what I want to do.
And I also love the structure too, because I think a lot of people are like, I want that, but I feel lost. Like they don't even have, they've been suppressing that courage for so long. They don't have the courage to even take a step, like, cause they don't know which way to step. And so I love that it's also structured, to bring out that transformation, which is really what it is.
Yeah. And I want to one-on-one talk to every person before they start and at the end of the program, so that I understand exactly like what it is that's holding you back and what it is, you know, what's on your permission slip list that you aren't doing. And then at the end, like, where are we going from here? Because there should be like a tremendous amount of like confidence and security that's going to launch you forward into whatever it is. So
yay. Okay. So I'm going to provide links to everything, but what's the best way for people to find you?
So definitely, if you head to my website, shawnaclingerman.com, I will have a link to this, you know, kind of at the very top of the site. So it'll be easy to find. And then you can sign up for the waiting list, so that as soon as it goes live, I can send you more information. If you want to talk to me, contact me personally. I think the easiest way to do that, honestly, is through social media. If you go to my Instagram, it's at Shawna Clingerman, or on Facebook, Shawna Clingerman Art and Design. I am really great about getting back to people there. And I'd love to have you there, even if this program is not for you or not for you right now. Even if you just get on my social media, like there'll be like a little extra pep in yours, because I'm all about like getting people going after it, and you know, and then honestly,
I love it. Okay, well, thank you so much for taking the time to share your story with us. And
thank you, Livy. I love you so much.
Oh, You're so
Livy
sweet.
you've been a life changer for me. I just cannot even, I really am glad I made that wine drinking face.
I love that. I love that. Oh. Okay, so awesome. I'm so excited for what's coming next for you. And like I said at the beginning, you're such an inspiration. So I'm so thankful to be able to share you with all of my people, and now they can connect with you as well. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good rest of your day.